Listen up because what you're about to hear is the kind of scandal that makes reality TV history shake at its core. This is a fabricated dramatization for entertainment purposes, but if it were real, fans would already be losing their minds. Imagine waking up to whispers so explosive they spread faster than a leaked group chat screenshot. Imagine two marriages, once portrayed as battle-tested and unbreakable, suddenly cracking at the exact same time. And at the center of it all, one name that nobody saw coming. Fans are shocked. Emotions ran high. And the family was left divided before the sun even set. Late-night DMs, secret meets, phone calls that were never meant to be heard. According to this sensationalized tale, Kirk and Mendeecees, two men who swore loyalty to their wives, were allegedly caught in the same web of betrayal, not months apart, not years apart, but overlapping, colliding, exploding into one massive reality TV-style nightmare that nobody could ignore. Picture this: one wife scrolling through her phone at 2:17 a.m., her gut telling her something is off. Another wife hearing her name whispered during an argument that didn't make sense until it did. And Jasmine, allegedly calm, allegedly confident, allegedly holding secrets that could burn entire households to the ground. When the first accusation dropped, fans thought it was just another rumor. When the second one surfaced, jaws hit the floor. When the timelines began to overlap, social media erupted. Say it ain't so. Fans cried in disbelief. Not both of them, but the receipts, at least in this dramatic retelling, kept stacking up. Missed calls, deleted texts, friends suddenly choosing sides, and insiders claiming that Jasmine wasn't just a side character in this story, she was the match that lit the fuse. Behind closed doors, voices were raised. Tears were shed. Accusations flew like daggers. One wife allegedly screamed, "I stood by you when nobody else did." Another reportedly whispered, "I don't even recognize you anymore." And as the men scrambled to explain, deny, and deflect, one question echoed louder than all the rest. How deep does this really go? What happens when two households are rocked by the same scandal? When loyalty is questioned, reputations are on the line, and children are caught in the emotional crossfire. This isn't just about cheating, about pride, power, and the devastating cost of betrayal. So buckle up, because if this story were real, it wouldn't just be a scandal, it would be a full-blown reality TV reckoning. And trust me, this is only the beginning. The night everything unraveled began quietly, the kind of quiet that feels heavy even before you know why. The air inside Kirk's house felt thick, like the walls themselves were listening. The clock on the microwave blinked 1:43 a.m., and somewhere in the distance a phone buzzed, then stopped. Kirk sat alone at the kitchen counter, staring at nothing, replaying conversations in his head that he wished he could erase. He told himself it was just stress, just rumors, just noise from people who loved drama. But deep down, he knew the calm was fake. Something was coming. Across town, in another house filled with memories and unresolved tension, Mendeecees paced the living room floor, running his hands over his face like he could wipe away the guilt that kept creeping in. In this fabricated story, he had been dodging questions all week, brushing off concerns with jokes and half-smiles. His wife had noticed, of course. Wives always notice. The way his phone never left his hand. The way he stepped outside to take calls. The way his laugh didn't quite reach his eyes anymore. Emotions ran high even before the truth had a name. And then there was Jasmine.com on the surface. Unreadable, she sat in her car that same night, engine off, scrolling through messages that would never be meant for daylight. Her expression didn't change, but her chest felt tight. She wasn't supposed to be the center of a storm like this. At least, that's what she told herself. But every decision she had made led her right here, parked between choices she could no longer undo. The next morning, fans would be shocked if this were real, but in this story, the first crack appeared when Kirk's wife picked up his phone by accident. It wasn't snooping, not at first. The phone lit up with a notification that didn't belong to family, work, or anything she recognized. Just a name, Jasmine. Her heart skipped, then sank. She didn't scream. She didn't throw the phone. She sat down slowly, like her body needed permission to stay upright. "Who is Jasmine?" she asked later that day, her voice steady in a way that scared Kirk more than yelling ever could. Kirk laughed. Too fast. "Nobody. Just someone from around the way." "Around the way where?" she asked, eyes locked on his head. He shrugged, avoiding her gaze. "You're reading too much into it." In this dramatized version, that was the moment the marriage shifted, not because of proof, but because of dismissal. Because of the space that opened between them when trust didn't rush in to fill the gap. Meanwhile, Mendeecees' wife was having her own awakening. It started with a conversation that didn't make sense. A friend had mentioned Jasmine casually, too casually, as if her name had been floating around longer than anyone wanted to admit. You know Jasmine, right? The friend had said, then quickly changed the subject. But the damage was done. Once a name lodges itself in your mind, it doesn't leave quietly. That night, Mendeecees was confronted. Why does Jasmine's name keep coming up around you? His wife asked, standing in the doorway, arms crossed. Mendeecees sighed, already exhausted. It's nothing, people talk. People don't talk for no reason. She shot back. I'm not stupid. Voices rose. Accusations followed. Old arguments resurfaced, dragging the past into the present like an unwanted guest. In this tale, he denied everything at first, then softened his tone, then got angry, a classic pattern. And when he finally said, "You don't trust me," she responded with tears in her eyes. "You've given me reasons not to." By the end of that week, whispers had turned into full conversations. Friends started choosing sides without even meaning to. Group chats went silent. Family members asked careful questions that sounded more like warnings. And Jasmine, in the center of it all, felt the pressure closing in. She told herself she hadn't promised anyone anything. She told herself these men were responsible for their own choices. But the truth, even in fiction, has a way of demanding to be acknowledged. The first public blow-up in this story happened at a small family gathering. Kirk's wife arrived late, eyes red but posture strong. Kirk followed behind her, already defensive. Someone asked an innocent question about how they were doing, and the room froze. "Ask him," she said quietly. Kirk snapped. "This is not the time or place." "There's never a time or place for the truth with you," she replied. The family was left divided in that moment. Some told her to calm down. Others told Kirk to explain himself. Children watched from the hallway, sensing the shift but not understanding it. And outside, unseen, rumors continued to grow legs. On the other side of town, Mendeecees and his wife reached their breaking point. In this dramatized account, she finally went through his phone while he slept. Not because she wanted to, but because she needed peace. What she found wasn't explicit, but it was enough. Familiarity, inside jokes, emotional intimacy that belonged in a marriage, not a hidden inbox. And again, that name, Jasmine. When she woke him up, her hands were shaking. "How long?" she asked. Mendeecees sat up slowly, realization washing over his face. "It's not what you think," he said, the words sounding weak even to him. "Then tell me what it is," she demanded. Silence answered her. By the time Jasmine realized both situations were colliding, it was too late. She received a message from an unknown number that simply said, "We need to talk." Then another. And another. She knew who they were from without asking. In this drama, she felt fear for the first time. Not of exposure, but of impact. Of families shattering. Of being remembered as the villain in someone else's story. She met one of the wives first. The tension was unbearable. They sat across from each other, eyes scanning every micro-expression. "Did you sleep with my husband?" the wife asked, wasting no time. Jasmine swallowed. "It's complicated." "No," the wife said firmly. "It's simple, yes or no." That pause, that single breath before Jasmine answered, felt like an eternity. And when she finally spoke, the truth, or at least her version of it, cracked the room open. Tears followed. Anger exploded. Accusations flew. And somewhere in the chaos, the second wife was already on her way. Fueled by betrayal and unanswered questions, unknowingly walking into the same storm. The collision was inevitable. All paths were leading to the same moment, the same confrontation, the same reckoning. And as this story continued to unfold, one thing became painfully clear. This wasn't just about cheating. It was about secrets living too long in the dark. It was about choices stacking up until they became impossible to carry. And as footsteps echoed down the hallway toward that inevitable face-to-face, the tension tightened, ready to snap, carrying us directly into what happens next. The hallway felt narrower with every step, like the walls were closing in on purpose. In this drama, the second wife arrived just as raised voices spilled through the door. She paused for half a second, long enough to hear her husband's name spoken by another woman. Jasmine, that was all it took. She pushed the door open. And the room went silent so fast it almost hurt. Everyone froze, Jasmine's eyes widened. The first wife turned slowly, recognition flashing across her face, followed immediately by fury. "So you know her too," she said, her voice trembling but controlled. The second wife didn't answer right away. She was too busy staring at Jasmine, memorizing her face, connecting dots she never wanted to exist. "How long?" she finally asked, directing the question at Jasmine but knowing the answer belonged to someone else too. Jasmine stood up slowly. "This wasn't supposed to happen like this," she said, already sounding defensive. "Was it supposed to happen at all?" The second wife snapped. The tension in the room was unbearable. In this dramatized version, both wives realized at the same time that they were standing on opposite sides of the same betrayal. Different houses, different men, same wound. Emotions ran high as anger turned into something heavier. Humiliation, grief, disbelief. Outside, the men were being called. Kirk's phone buzzed first. Then Mendeecees' missed calls stacked up. Texts followed. "Where are you? We need to talk. Don't lie to me again." Neither man wanted to walk into that room, but neither could avoid it. When Kirk arrived, his face drained of color the moment he saw who was there. His wife didn't even look at him. She kept her eyes on Jasmine. "Tell him," she said quietly. "Tell him what you just told me." Jasmine hesitated. Kirk spoke instead. "This is getting blown out of proportion," he said, trying to take control. "Nothing even happened like that." The second wife laughed bitterly. "Funny how you all say that," she said, word for word. Moments later, Mendeecees walked in, already defensive. "Why are you all together?" he asked, then saw Jasmine, then understood. His shoulders dropped. The silence that followed was louder than any argument. "So it's true," his wife said. "All of it?" He opened his mouth, then closed it again. In this tale, that hesitation was the confirmation she needed. She stepped back, shaking her head. "I defended you. I embarrassed myself for you." Arguments erupted. Voices overlapped. Kirk blamed rumors. Mendeecees blamed misunderstandings. Jasmine tried to explain without fully admitting anything, but explanations don't heal when trust is already broken. Accusations flew across the room like shattered glass. "You ruined my family," one wife yelled at Jasmine. Jasmine fired back. "I didn't make vows to you." That line changed everything. Kirk's wife snapped her head toward her husband. "So you did," she said. "You did make vows. And this is how you honor them." Fans would be shocked watching this unfold if it were real. Family members began calling, hearing fragments of the chaos through speakers. Sisters cried. Brothers argued. Parents demanded answers. The family was left divided before anyone even knew what the full truth was. That night ended without resolution. Doors slammed. Cars peeled out of driveways. Children were picked up in silence. Jasmine drove home alone, hands gripping the steering wheel, realizing there was no version of this story where she walked away untouched. The following days were brutal. In this fabricated narrative, social circles shifted overnight. Friends stopped inviting couples out. Whispers followed them into stores and schools. Kirk tried to fix things with grand gestures that fell flat. Mendeecees promised counseling, change, honesty, but promises sound hollow when they come after discovery. One wife packed bags. The other slept on the couch. Neither man knew which loss scared him more. Their marriages, their image, their families? And Jasmine, once confident, now found herself isolated, painted as the common denominator in everyone's pain. Then came the twist nobody expected. A mutual friend revealed there were messages neither wife had seen yet, messages that suggested overlap, dates, times, conversations that made it impossible to deny how deep this went. When the screenshots were shared, the room fell silent again, just like before, but this time there was no confusion left, only clarity, sharp and unforgiving. Kirk broke down first. "I messed up," he admitted, voice cracking, "but I never meant for it to go this far." His wife stared at him, tears streaming freely now. "It always goes this far," she said. "You just don't see it until it's too late." Mendeecees didn't cry. He grew quiet, distant, a reaction that hurt his wife even more. "Say something," she begged. "Fight for us." He finally looked at her. "I don't know how," he said honestly. That honesty landed harder than any lie. And as the weight of everything settled in, one truth became unavoidable in this saga. Nothing would ever go back to how it was. The damage had already spread too wide. And just as everyone thought the worst had already happened, another secret waited in the shadows, ready to surface, pulling everyone deeper into the storm that was far from over. The secret didn't surface all at once. It leaked out slowly, like poison seeping through cracks everyone pretended not to see. In this dramatization, the morning after the screenshots were revealed felt unreal. Kirk's wife didn't cry anymore. She moved through the house in silence, touching familiar objects like she was already saying goodbye. Kirk followed her from room to room, apologizing in different tones, different volumes, hoping one of them would finally work. "I told you I'm sorry," he said for what felt like the 100th time. She stopped and turned to him. "Sorry doesn't erase patterns," she replied. "Sorry doesn't raise our kids alone when you're not emotionally here." That hit him harder than yelling ever could. Meanwhile, across town, Mendeecees' house was heavy with a different kind of tension. His wife had barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the messages, the dates, the jokes that weren't meant for her. When Mendeecees tried to reach for her hand, she pulled away instinctively. "Don't," she said quietly. "I need space." Space was the last thing either man wanted, but it was the only thing the women needed. In this story, Jasmine thought the worst was behind her. She was wrong. A former friend, angry and hurt by association, decided silence wasn't loyalty anymore. They called one of the wives and asked to meet. What was revealed in that meeting changed everything. It wasn't just emotional cheating. It wasn't just late-night conversations. There were plans, hotels discussed and canceled, trips almost taken, and one detail that made the room spin. Both men knew about each other. Not fully, not openly, but enough. Enough to know they were crossing lines together. They joked about it. The friend admitted, said it was messy, but worth it. The wife listening felt her stomach drop. The betrayal deepened, layered now with mockery. When she confronted Mendeecees with this new information, he didn't deny it. He couldn't. His silence confirmed what words never could. "So I was the joke," she said. "Our marriage was the joke." "No," he said quickly. "It was never like that." "Then explain it to me," she demanded. He couldn't, because there is no explanation that makes betrayal feel smaller once it grows teeth. Kirk faced a similar confrontation hours later. His wife had spoken to the other wife. Lines of communication opened that neither woman expected. Pain bonded them faster than friendship ever could. "Did you know about him?" she asked Kirk directly. Kirk looked away. That was answer enough. That night, both women sat together, talking through tears, anger, and disbelief. Fans would be shocked by the unity if this were real. Two women wronged by different men, finding strength in shared truth. They thought they could control the narrative. One said, "But we have the truth." Jasmine, feeling the walls close in, finally spoke publicly in this tale, not to clear her name, but to explain her side. She claimed manipulation, loneliness, blurred lines. But the response was brutal. Friends distanced themselves. Messages flooded in, some cruel, some disappointed. The isolation was overwhelming. Meanwhile, Kirk's family stepped in. Elders demanded accountability. Younger relatives questioned loyalty. "You embarrassed us," one said bluntly. "This isn't just about you." Mendeecees faced pressure too. Counseling was suggested. Separation was discussed. Divorce whispered. His wife didn't commit to anything yet. "I need to see actions," she said, "not speeches." And just when it seemed like the story had exposed everything, another twist emerged. A timeline inconsistency. Dates that didn't match the original confessions. Meaning someone was still lying. When confronted again, Kirk finally admitted there was more. One more meeting. One more secret he thought would never surface. That confession shattered the fragile calm. His wife packed bags that same night. No yelling. No tears. Just finality. "I choose myself," she said before walking out. On the other side, Mendeecees watched his wife sleep on the couch, realizing the distance between them was no longer physical. It was emotional, structural, possibly permanent. And Jasmine, sitting alone in her apartment, scrolled through old messages, realizing every choice she made echoed louder than she ever expected. This storm wasn't slowing down. It was evolving. And as each character stood at a crossroads, one thing was certain. The fallout was far from over, and the next chapter would force decisions nobody was ready to make. The crossroads came faster than anyone expected. In this dramatization, Kirk's wife didn't go far that first night. She checked into a hotel just outside the city, sitting on the edge of the bed with her suitcase still zipped, staring at the wall like it might give her permission to breathe. Her phone buzzed non-stop. Kirk, family, friends. She silenced it all. For the first time in years, the noise stopped, and in that silence, she realized how tired she really was. Kirk, back at the house, walked from room to room like a ghost. The echo of her last words followed him. "One, choose myself." He sat on the floor of the closet, surrounded by shoes and memories. And for the first time, the weight of his actions settled fully on his chest. This wasn't damage control anymore. This was loss. Across town, Mendeecees woke up to an empty bed and a note on the nightstand. Not a goodbye, not a promise, just a sentence. I need time to think without you talking. He read it over and over, each word cutting deeper than the last. He wanted to call her, but he knew better. Pressure had only pushed her further away before. The wives stayed in contact. Long calls, late at night, tears shared without judgment. In this story, their bond grew stronger as the men scrambled separately to fix what was broken. Fans would be shocked by how quickly loyalty shifted when truth entered the room. Jasmine tried to disappear for a while. She stopped answering calls, deleted social apps, avoided familiar places. But accountability has a way of finding you. One afternoon, she ran into someone she couldn't avoid. Mendeecees' wife. The encounter was unplanned, raw, and impossible to escape. I'm not here to fight, the wife said, arms crossed but voice steady. I just want to understand. Jasmine nodded slowly. I don't expect forgiveness. Good, she replied, because I'm not offering it. They talked longer than either expected. Jasmine admitted to feeling used. The wife admitted to feeling foolish. Neither left lighter, but both left clearer. Sometimes closure isn't peace. It's truth without excuses. Kirk attempted one last grand gesture. Flowers, letters, promises. He showed up unannounced, eyes red, voice shaking. I'll do anything, he said. Therapy, space, whatever you need. She looked at him for a long moment. I needed honesty before I needed fixing, she said, and you didn't give me that. She didn't close the door forever, but she didn't open it either. That uncertainty was harder for Kirk than a clean break. Mendeecees, meanwhile, faced a reckoning with his children. Questions he couldn't dodge. Why doesn't mom sleep here? One asked. He swallowed hard. Because I made a mistake, he said simply. The honesty hurt, but lying would have hurt more. Jasmine's name continued to follow them all, but its power slowly shifted. No longer a mystery, no longer a secret, just a reminder of choices made. In this saga, the storm began to quiet, but the damage remained visible. Weeks passed. Decisions loomed. Reconciliation or separation, rebuilding or walking away. And as each character stood in their own quiet moment, one truth echoed through them all. Nothing exposes people like betrayal, and nothing forces growth like facing the consequences head-on. Time didn't heal anything right away. It stretched the pain, reshaped it, forced everyone to sit with it longer than they wanted. In this dramatization, weeks turned into months, and the shock settled into something heavier. Reality. Kirk's wife moved from the hotel into a small apartment, choosing neutral colors and minimal furniture. Like she was afraid memories would sneak in if she made the space too personal. Every box she unpacked felt like a declaration she wasn't ready to say out loud. Kirk visited only when invited. Each visit was awkward, careful, like walking on broken glass. Conversations stayed surface level at first. Schedules, kids, logistics. But under every word was the unspoken question. Is this over or just paused? Kirk tried to show consistency, but consistency after betrayal feels suspicious. She watched his actions closely, not with hope, but with caution. Mendeecees' situation grew quieter, but no less painful. His wife didn't leave the house, but she emotionally withdrew. Counseling sessions began, filled with long silences and interrupted apologies. Sometimes she cried. Sometimes she stared straight ahead, numb. I don't know who you are anymore, she told him during one session. That sentence echoed in his mind long after they left the room. The wives continued to talk. Not every day, but often enough to remind each other they weren't crazy. I keep replaying everything, one admitted, wondering how I missed it. The other responded softly, we didn't miss it. We trusted. Jasmine, meanwhile, faced her own reckoning. Isolation forced reflection she had avoided for years. She started therapy, not to repair her image, but to understand why she kept finding herself in other people's chaos. I confused attention with worth, she admitted in one session. The realization hurt, but it was necessary. The men attempted damage control publicly. Apologies, accountability statements, promises to do better. Fans would be shocked by how divided reactions became. Some demanded consequences, others called for forgiveness. But inside their homes, none of that noise mattered. Only the quiet moments did. The empty chair at dinner, the space in the bed, the absence that screamed louder than any argument. One evening, Mendeecees' wife asked a question she had avoided until then. If I forgive you, she said, will you forgive yourself? He didn't answer right away. He didn't know how. Because guilt has a way of lingering even when someone else offers grace. Kirk faced a similar question from his wife, days later. Why didn't you stop? She asked. Not angry, just curious. He struggled to explain something he barely understood himself. I didn't think about the end, he said. I thought I could control it. She nodded slowly. That's what scares me, she replied. Jasmine reached out once more, not to explain, not to defend, but to apologize without conditions. She didn't ask for forgiveness. She didn't expect it. She just acknowledged harm. Sometimes that's all someone can do. As this story moved closer to its final stretch, nothing was neatly resolved. Marriages stood on fragile ground. Trust had to be rebuilt from nothing or released entirely, but growth began where denial ended. And while scars remained, so did clarity. Everyone involved learned the same lesson in different ways. Secrets don't stay hidden forever. Patterns always surface. And when they do, they force choices that change lives. The storm that started with whispers had stripped everything bare, leaving only truth behind, and the final outcome now rested in the hands of those brave enough to face it. The final stretch didn't arrive with fireworks or dramatic ultimatums. It arrived quietly, like acceptance knocking instead of rage. In this dramatization, everyone reached a point where exhaustion outweighed anger. Kirk's wife sat alone one evening, surrounded by half-unpacked boxes, and realized she wasn't waiting for him to change anymore. She was waiting to see who she became without carrying his mistakes. That realization felt heavier than heartbreak, but also strangely freeing. When Kirk came over that weekend, there was no tension in the air, just honesty. I don't know if I can be the man you need, he admitted, voice low, but I'm trying to be better than who I was. She nodded slowly. Trying isn't a promise, she said, and I can't live on maybes anymore. They didn't decide everything that night, but they acknowledged something important. Love alone wasn't enough anymore. Trust had to exist too, and rebuilding it would take time. Neither of them could rush. Whether together or apart, the old version of their marriage was gone. Mendeecees faced his turning point differently. During one counseling session, his wife finally spoke without holding back. I stayed loyal when it was hard, she said. I defended you when it cost me my dignity. If I stay now, it has to be because I believe you've changed, not because I'm afraid to start over. That sentence shifted something in him. For the first time, he stopped focusing on being forgiven and started focusing on accountability. Not words, actions. Consistency without applause. Whether it would be enough, he didn't know, but it was the only path forward. Jasmine watched all of this from a distance, no longer at the center but still affected by the ripple she helped create. She accepted that some people would never forgive her, and she stopped expecting them to. Growth, she learned, doesn't always come with redemption. Sometimes it comes with responsibility and restraint. Months later, the chaos faded into something quieter. Not peace, but stability. Co-parenting schedules replaced arguments. Therapy sessions replaced denial. Conversations replaced silence. Fans would be shocked by how normal everything looked on the outside compared to the damage that once threatened to consume everyone involved. The families remained divided, but clearer. Boundaries were drawn, expectations reset. And while scars remained, they became reminders instead of open wounds. This saga didn't end with a fairy tale or a villain punished perfectly. It ended with truth, consequences, and the understanding that betrayal changes everyone it touches. In the end, the biggest exposure wasn't who cheated with whom. It was who everyone became when the secrets stopped hiding. And now that you've heard every shocking twist, every emotional confrontation, and every moment where loyalty was tested and trust was shattered, the biggest question still remains unresolved. What would you do if you were in their shoes? Would you fight to rebuild something broken, or would you walk away to protect your peace? Because this story, even as a fabricated dramatization for entertainment, hits close to home for so many people watching. Fans are still divided. Some believe forgiveness is the ultimate strength. Others say betrayal like this has no expiration date. Emotions ran high throughout every chapter of this saga, and even now, the fallout lingers. In ways that can't be neatly wrapped up, some wounds heal slowly, others leave scars that change how you love forever. And the family was left divided not because of one mistake, but because of choices repeated, secrets protected, and truths delayed too long. This story wasn't just about cheating. It was about accountability. It was about silence being louder than honesty. It was about how quickly lives can unravel when communication dies and assumptions take over. And most of all, it was about how exposure doesn't just reveal secrets, it reveals character. Now it's your turn. You've seen how every decision created a ripple effect. You've watched trust crumble and attempts at redemption struggle to stand. So tell us what you think. Who do you believe deserves forgiveness, if anyone at all? Did the wives do the right thing by choosing themselves? Do you believe real change is possible after betrayal this deep? Or is some damage truly permanent? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this conversation doesn't end here. Your perspective matters. And trust us, other viewers are waiting to see if you agree with them or challenge them. Keep it respectful, keep it real, and don't hold back. And if this story kept you hooked from the first whisper to the final reckoning, make sure you hit that like button. It lets us know you want more dramatic deep dives like this one. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss another explosive story filled with twists, secrets, and moments that leave fans shocked. And don't forget to turn on notifications, because the next upload might just be even more intense than this one. Share this video with someone who loves reality-style drama as much as you do. Start a conversation. Debate the choices. Question the outcomes. Because stories like this aren't just entertainment. They're mirrors reflecting real emotions, real mistakes, and real consequences. Thank you for watching, for listening, and for staying until the very end. Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and remember, the truth always finds its way into the light.